Hey there, it's Michael. Welcome to Whole Again, the show that's here in support of you creating a meaningful life and the person you're becoming. And I'm excited to share a new series with you that will air this summer as America turns 250 years old, which is still pretty young relative to many other countries across this big blue marble that we all share. The series is called A Perfectly Imperfect Union. In 2022, I rode my bike across America, from Astoria, Oregon to the Lincoln Memorial. My wife drove our RV, and she had two co-pilots, Jester and Hope, two Springer Spaniels. And when we did it, America was coming out of the pandemic, and we were hurting from things that had happened prior to the pandemic. Of course, going through what we all went through. And at that time, and this is something I still believe today, is that we were entering an inflection point. An inflection point for us to hopefully pause, breathe, and reflect on who we wish to become as individuals, as communities, and as a country. As I pedaled across America, I wanted to share America's beauty with others, her natural beauty and the beauty of her people. And I also wanted to share where we were hurting. As America turns 250, I believe Kinstugi, which is something we use as a metaphor here at Whole Again, is a perfect metaphor for where we are as a country. There's so much beauty to celebrate, and we can also acknowledge that parts of us feel broken or are broken, but we can find a way to come back together, just like Kinstugi teaches us. And when we do, we don't try to erase or cover up where we have scars or blemishes. We highlight them in gold, and we celebrate them as symbols of our strength and resilience. Kinstugi is called the golden repair, and in essence, we can see beauty in something that's perfectly imperfect. During this series, I plan to speak to at least 2 people in each state and the District of Columbia. So 102 conversations with real folk, as I like to say. We're going to let the celebrities and the big influencers have their day somewhere else. But here, I want to reach out and talk to real people and listen to their reflections as they think about America turning 250 years old. And my hope is that you'll tune in to at least one, if not all 102. Because my theory going into this is that you'll hear different perspectives. Some may be aligned with yours. Others may not. But my hope is that you hear the goodness in your fellow citizens and realize, as Maya Angelou shared with us, we are more alike, my friends, than we are unalike. We are more alike, my friends, than we are unalike. I've had the privilege of traveling all over the world and all over this country. And this belief is something that I hold deep inside of me. So yes, I do believe that we are more alike, my friends, than we are unalike. So if you're ready to meet one of your fellow neighbors who, like all of us, is perfectly imperfect, take a healthy breath in and a slow releasing breath out, and get to know Sarah Gobel. Sarah, my friend, thank you for joining me on this series, A Perfectly Imperfect Union. How are you feeling today?
Great. Great. It's a beautiful day in Kansas.
Awesome. Yeah, there's no place like home, right? So how many times do people from Kansas hear that?
Honestly, not as much as you would assume, I guess. I
Oh, okay.
figured moving here, because I'm actually from Missouri, so I figured crossing the border, I would get a lot more references to Dorothy or Wizard of Oz, but
And Toto, and
yeah,
I thought it would come back up maybe because Wicked came out and then
yeah,
Wicked 2 came out, but I guess it's for everyone else. That's how we
right?
think of Kansas. So
I get a
so
lot more when my husband is British, so when we travel back to the UK, I guess I get a lot more from people outside of the United
ah,
States
okay.
than inside.
All right, that's interesting.
Yeah.
So, for those that don't know you, can you take a moment to introduce yourself? And we already know you're coming from Kansas, so
Yes.
I'll ask the second part of the question. What's something really cool about Kansas that people may not know about?
Well, I have to say Kansas, and I think we agree on this, has the most beautiful sunsets of any place I've been in any of my travels. And I think it's because of there's so much flat ground that you can just see for miles and miles, but every day we get a different sunset and they're gorgeous.
I would, as we've talked about, I
Yeah.
totally agree. Like no other place I've traveled to, and I've been around the block a few times.
Yeah.
Kansas has absolutely the best sunsets
Mm,
ever. They're so
yeah,
gorgeous. They take your breath away.
truly.
So let's take a moment and we'll go back. Can you introduce yourself and let people know who you are and yeah, who the heck are you and why are you here?
Yeah, absolutely. I always say that I'm just another millennial Sarah because truly I feel like it's hard to be in a room where there's not another Sarah my age. And I just think that it was a very popular name in the like mid to late 80s. So my name's Sarah. I live in Kansas, but I'm from Missouri. And I always say I'm from the home of Brad Pitt and Cashew Chicken. That's like our claim to fame. Springfield, Missouri. I came here for, I don't know, a more expansive life, I guess, at a small town for my child. I have a daughter. She's going to be 11 this year. And when COVID hit, it kind of opened up the world. I work in marketing and advertising. And before COVID, you're kind of chained to your desk. But when COVID hit well, we could work from anywhere really, as long as you have an internet connection. So my daughter and I packed up our home, sold it, and moved to Kansas City just to get a little bit more spice in our life. And it's been great since then on a trip abroad. I met my husband, my now husband, Brian. We call him Boxy. And we have a beautiful, almost 2-year-old son, Finnick. And aside from being a mom, which is a full time job, I, again, work in marketing, design. I work for a very small independent agency called Love in the Machine. They are actually fixed in Chicago, Illinois. But again, with remote work, the possibilities are endless. So I have been with them now for oh gosh, almost 4 years, and it's the best job I've had in advertising. Being so small and mighty, it gives us some freedom to, like, pick and choose who we wanna work with. A lot of us in this realm, we get into advertising and design because we wanna be able to be really creative,
Yeah.
but sometimes the realm can be a bit limiting in creative capacities. So we love our clients and we're really enjoying just kind of building our own brand, expanding. We're still a pretty young company, but we have like a freelance model. So again, we just work with freelancers from around the world, even. And if we have a client that has a specific need, we can kind of pick and choose our teams based on who we know. So we can create the perfect team for that project. And it's just really fun. I love what I do. And aside from that, I have also a third job. I started a nonprofit last year
Wow. Okay.
called the Honest Diagnosis Project. And we don't have to get into it, but there's a very long, dramatic story. In 2024, after my son was born, we ran him to a children's hospital. And instead of diagnosing the viral infection that he had, they said he was abused. And they took both of my children from us for 6 months. It took us 6 months to get them back and prove our innocence. And so being thrust into that world that the only thing I had ever even had against me is a speeding ticket. So didn't know how to get a lawyer, didn't know anything about court processes or, civil rights laws. And it was an eye-opening experience. And I took my story onto TikTok and found thousands and thousands of families all over the world who are experiencing the exact same thing. So I started the Honest Diagnosis Project to try to help give back, advocate for these families, get them connected with actual experts who can help them prove their innocence.
That is so great that you're taking what is a horrific moment, because I read your account, and I'll put that link in the show notes when our episode gets released.
Thank you.
But you took something horrific and now you're trying to use it as fuel to help other people, which I think is
Thank you.
amazing. And I'm so sorry that you as a mom, but also as a family, your kids, your husband, had to go through something like that. I had no clue how prevalent this actually is until I read your article about it. So thanks for taking a really tough moment and trying to create a better tomorrow for other people who might be going through it right now. So I think it's
Yeah,
fantastic that you're using the energy of the moment in this particular way.
absolutely. Lemonades out of lemons, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. It's a lemons into lemonade kind of moment. So speaking of lemonade, when you think of lemonade, you think of picnics. So we'll fast forward maybe a few weeks into July, August. You're having a picnic. You're with your friends, your family. Maybe even Brad Pitt stops by. Who knows?
That would be nice.
Yeah, that would be nice, Brad. And Brad asks you, hey, what does America mean to you? How do you respond?
Mm, I think that's tough right now. I feel like in its inception, America meant opportunity. Right? And I think growing up in America, that is maybe the what we were sold that America is. It's a melting pot of cultures for a better life, for opportunity. But I don't have such a rosy outlook on what America is right now. And my husband always reminds me, again, British, he's like, America is very young. 250, like in the grand scheme of the world, you guys are like in your infancy still. You need to learn a lot of really hard lessons before you can play with the big dogs. So, America to me is right now, it's about tough growing pains, learning from the mistakes that have been made, are currently being made, and maybe still a little bit of opportunity. It's just opportunity to grow from what we know isn't working.
Interesting. As you mentioned growing pains, it brought me back to the early childhood days of my youngest daughter, who experienced a lot of growing pains. And so
Yes.
she would wake up in the middle of the night just in so much pain, and she was looking for comfort.
Yeah.
And like as you describe, yeah, what America means to you right now, I can appreciate the growing pains because we so many people have said this is the land of opportunity, and for some people it still is, but it's certainly we're going through a tough period of time that it may not necessarily be the land of opportunity equally for everyone
Exactly.
out
Right.
there. So as you think about like this country, and part of the country is, again, the narrative is it's the land of opportunity. And so many people came to this country. We're a country of immigrants, and we all have a family story to this country or to this land if we have roots that are indigenous to
Right.
the land.
Yeah.
So do you know much about your family's story around America and this land?
Yeah, I on my mother's side, I don't know a lot. Her mother died when I was very young, never got to know her. I think her father also, I was like 7 when he passed. So there
Mm.
wasn't a lot of time spent with that side of the family. My mom always, says she's got a percentage of Cherokee in her. And again, as you kind of alluded to, I think by nature of America, a lot of us have some maybe ties to Native American roots of this country. Um, and so I don't know a lot about that side, but my father's side, we are all Scandinavian. So we have Viking heritage and, Swedish roots, and probably the most I know, but I know like a lot. My ancestors came over here with not a lot of money, and it was quite a struggle to get on their feet and took a while. So there's definitely no, like, lineage of an inheritance tied to my name. We're all really fighting for what we need here.
Well, that's a typical American story of
Yeah.
like coming from another country and taking a huge risk. It's
Mhm.
such a vulnerable and courageous move to think back, to past generations
Yeah.
where they were in one particular country and they're like, okay, we're gonna roll the dice. We're gonna make this work. And you had to put in the effort if you didn't have a whole bunch of wealth to support yourself. So
Right.
a lot of grit, a lot of resilience, a lot of perseverance, the ability to endure. I love the Nordic roots. You probably don't have, unfortunately, part of your lineage back to Sweden. I imagine you don't get an IKEA gift card promo code. But you should. I
I
think like
should.
all Swedes that live here might get a 10% break on any purchase at IKEA. So that could be a new rule. Who
I agree,
knows?
I like that. I also don't really love Swedish meatballs, which I feel like is blasphemy, but I do drive a Volvo, so there you go.
Okay, well, see, perfect. It's all lining up,
It
Sarah. It's all
is.
lining up. It's all making sense. So your model at work is very pandemic-esque,
Oh, for sure.
right? Virtual freelancer. So this gets into new technology,
Mhm.
which is part of our conversation
Yeah,
really globally, but certainly here in the US around AI.
yeah.
Some people feel like it will liberate us and we'll have all this leisure time. And then other people will be like, it's going to destroy us and take all of our jobs. And then there's always that gray space in between the black and the white.
Yeah.
Where do you stand on AI right now? Just curious.
Yeah, absolutely. I live pretty firmly by the rule within reason that I think everything is okay and fine in moderation. And so in its inception, AI is a tool that is very helpful to a lot of industries. If it was being used in moderation, I don't know. Again, it's so hard to know nationally what the news looks like everywhere, but in Kansas, especially right now, we're having protests pretty much weekly because they're trying to stick data centers everywhere, and people are not
Yeah.
having it because of the clear tie to how it's harming the environment, how it's harming the people around them, and unfortunately, what we're seeing is politicians, who are profiting off of these relationships, or the people at the top who are profiting at these relationships don't care. They don't care what the people around them or how they're being affected or feel about these things. And I think that's an issue. Anytime we're putting profit over people, I have an issue with that. Also, in my line of work, we've already seen it. We're seeing it a lot, actually. One of our largest CPG clients has said several times, "Well, we can just use AI to do what you guys are doing." And
Okay.
that's an issue, right? Like, we're actively losing business because of things like that, because people have seen that they can just use technology and not have to pay a human. But the reality is AI needs a human touch. It needs a human prompt. It needs somebody who knows the business and like in advertising, AI needs somebody who knows consumers and has relationships and can read human behavior to put those prompts in. So you're not going to get a great output if you don't have a human touch to AI. But do I use AI? Yeah, within moderation because it does. It makes my life a lot easier. Do I use it to change my hair color or my haircut to see what I might look like with a short bob? No, I don't use it for that. But I make sure I like have a once a day rule for myself. I'm going to use it once a day, but it's going to be for something that really does add value to my day. So that's kind of in a nutshell. I could probably talk about AI all day, but within moderation could be amazing, right?
Yeah, I appreciate your perspective, and especially like as you mentioned, through your work in advertising. So the great ads, the great advertising brings up certain feelings
Yeah,
and emotions,
exactly.
and our emotions drive us, right? The most memorable ads bring that up in us, and I think that requires a human to
I
be able
agree.
to actually spark that. And what I appreciate so much about this series is that I've been able to talk to people outside my little bubble here in suburban New Jersey. I was just speaking with Kimberly from rural Wyoming, and she was talking about data centers too. So as I talk to other people, as you know, with this country being as big as it is, hearing about how these data centers are popping up
Yeah.
in rural America. And again, this is not something that with my friend group, we're really talking about here right outside of New York City because there's no space to put these centers. But out in rural America, there's plenty of space and there's not a lot of people in these rural towns to really fight back.
Yeah.
And so I'm so grateful that you brought it up, and I'm hearing this message over and over again, and it becomes a problem not only for jobs but also AI as it relates to our climate and energy and all that jazz.
Oh, yeah.
So you mentioned up front, like, hey, we're going through some growing pains. We're hurting a little bit. So if you could work on fixing something or repairing or healing, you can pick your favorite verb. And maybe it's not perfect, but it's a meaningful first step. You know, as you know, I use kintsugi as a metaphor for where we are as a nation. So if you were able to heal and bring us together, if you picked one thing, what would it be to get us on that pathway to greater connection?
Yeah, I love that. And I feel like my answer is actually probably more radical than most. It's probably my Viking roots, right?
All right, that's cool. Like, bring it on, bring it on. I want to hear it.
But I genuinely think we're to a point where our government structure is not working for anyone, and I would probably just burn it down and start from scratch.
All
Like,
right,
I have the
okay,
match, I'll help.
okay.
I think, again, back to this concept of profit over people, how many times can we be shown by lawmakers that constituents are not at the heart of the decisions that they're making? Um, with a bunch of decisions, not just data centers and AI, but trading, insider trading, and the fact that Congress couldn't even live off of one of like my salary, as we just saw, they threw a big fit about that. It's taking the profit, taking the privatization out of these things, so that we're all more on like an equal playing field. I would do that. I would just probably start from scratch. I don't think this two-party system's working for anybody except for those at the top.
Those at the top. So get out the gasoline, get
Yeah,
out the matches, and burn the burn the whole motherfucker system down, and just
yeah,
start all over again. And I hear you. I think you're not alone in that thinking. Certainly, the point you make is like there's so much money in
yeah,
politics, and money has a way of corrupting people or creating a perspective and voting and legislating and leading in a certain way. So I hear what I hear what you're sharing. So I not maybe not so radical in some circles. So
right?
we'll see.
It's becoming more and
So
more popular of an idea, right?
yeah, I think a lot of people do struggle with just like two parties. You know, when you look at even your husband's former country of England, they have multiple parties, and I think we're struggling in certain areas with like these two people, we only have two people from
Right.
which to choose, and none of them seem that good, and it becomes a binary choice or the lesser of two evils. And I think we really are, as citizens, thirsty for leaders that we can be proud of, that will lead with, really caring about who we are and doing what's in the best interest and not necessarily using the position to line their own pockets.
Yeah.
And so I hear you.
Actually, and I
So
sorry, this is like a
yeah,
tangential conversation a little bit, but something interesting I talk about a lot on podcasts too is this this issue, this nonprofit issue, the fighting against medical misdiagnosis. It's actually led
sure.
me to a really interesting place. And I have been a bleeding heart liberal my entire life. There's really nothing much to say about that, but that I have been a bleeding heart liberal. And I think I probably would have shut down certain conversations if it was with a person who didn't identify the same as I did or didn't vote for the same candidate that I did. And I was pretty open about that. And then when this happened to my family, I noticed quickly that the people on the internet after I went viral that were pouring into my comment section and they wanted to help and they wanted to offer support. It wasn't liberals by any means, and the politicians who wanted to help were not liberals, and by some weird, like, kismet situation, I'm now having conversations and locking arms with these people I probably would have never given the time of day,
Mm,
and it kind of just helped open my eyes even more, like, I had a little bit of it, but about this idea that with a two-party system, we truly are divided by design, because if we were all having these very important conversations about very real life issues that affect us all, we wouldn't be at each other's throats all the time because more often
yeah.
than not, we're on the same side, like we're on the same page about almost everything, but like with a slightly different font because the talking head of whatever media we're watching is telling us one thing. But the reality is if we stopped and like actually had meaningful conversations with other human beings, I feel like we'd be a lot more powerful and just united. United States of America, right?
Absolutely. As perfectly imperfect as we are, but we're, to your point, we're all going through something, and it's not contingent upon what party we happen to vote for. We all go through some similar everyday things. And by having conversation, we can see our story in someone else's
Yep.
story, and that can form a connection and understanding. And then from there, we can actually do the work that we
Mhm.
need to do. So when you think about a birthday,
Yes.
often we think about birthday cake. So I have a two-part question for you, Sarah. What kind of cake are you serving for America's 250th? And as we blow out the candles of this birthday cake, all 250 of them,
Yeah.
what are you wishing for?
What kind of cake? I don't know. I wish I had something like clever to say about this. I just feel like it's probably not going to be a cake at all.
Okay, cool.
It's gonna be a pie that's way more American,
Yes.
on brand for America, so
What flavor?
probably like an apple pie,
Apple pie. Okay, cool. Maybe a little ice cream on the
with
side.
ice cream, always has to be ice cream.
Yes.
Depending on what part of the country you're in, maybe there's cheddar cheese in it, I don't know, that's not really
Mm,
a Kansas thing, but I haven't tried it. I don't like to yuck anybody's yum, so probably apple pie, and the wish would be for a better America for all of us, for the change. Yeah.
that's a good wish. So I've been asking the person that I spoke to last in this series to serve up a question to you. So here's the question from Kyle from Georgia. If America has a spirit animal, what would it be? And he puts a caveat on this. It can't be an eagle. So what is America's spirit animal?
I gotta go with my gut because the first thing that came to my brain was a raccoon, but a trash panda would be because 'cause they're called trash panda in the South. So,
Okay.
it would be trash
I like
panda.
that. I never even knew that.
Yes.
That was the nickname for a raccoon, a trash panda.
Yes,
That's
there's
pretty
actually a
cool.
minor league team in Alabama called the Trash Pandas,
Oh, wow.
so
I didn't know that. Look at that. Fun fact. This is
yeah.
pretty cool.
So that would I mean, I gotta go with my gut in that. That is literally the first animal that popped in my head.
All right, a raccoon. So, what question do you have for the next person I chat with?
Yeah, because I have a little insider knowledge, I'm driven to ask your next interviewee what they think is working well with the American justice system.
Okay, all right. That's a good question.
Yeah.
Well, Sarah, thank you so much for putting a good ripple into the world and helping us become a more perfectly imperfect union. Thanks for joining me on this series. I totally appreciate you.
Thank you so much for having me. I love these great conversations.
Sarah's story is incredible. And the link to the article we reference in our conversation, I'll put that in the show notes so you can read up on what her and her family went through. And I love the fact that Sarah took, in my vernacular, a last bad day moment and is trying to turn it into something positive to help others. And her question to our next guest, Maggie, is thought provoking. What's actually working in our justice system? So, how would you respond to that? Let me know. I'm curious about your answer. And we'll listen to Maggie's answer during our next conversation here on a perfectly imperfect union. And as always, thanks for being here. Thank you for listening and helping us create a more perfectly imperfect union. I hope you'll check out tomorrow's episode of Whole Again. Until then, remember to celebrate your scars as golden symbols of your strength and resilience. And don't forget to have fun storming the castle. And if you wish to learn more about creating beautiful ripples and how to prevent a bad moment from turning into a bad day, please visit my website, michaelobrienshift.com, and sign up for my newsletter called The Ripple Effect. And join us each Monday, Wednesday, and Friday here at Whole Again and discover how you can heal, grow, and become more resilient. And celebrate our scars as golden symbols of strength and resilience. Until then, remember, you can always come back to your breath. You've got this, and we've got you.